Hey YouTube, Matty's Daddy 12, Team JMT, coming to you guys with the latest of my understanding stun. In this one, I'm going to talk about the question, are TG stun decks dead? Before I get into answering that question exactly, I want to go ahead and talk about just the deck in general and what it was just a few weeks ago at the YCS Atlanta when it topped there. So what was it there? We had Horn of the Phantom Beast, the greatest +2 in the game. You're able to destroy their monster and draw a card. It is usable on nearly every monster in the deck, and just a lot of floaters that you could use this on also, which gives you a lot of pluses. Next, it ran Skill Drain, which is an amazing card against the meta. Answers so many things just because it seems like everything is relying on monster effects, and Skill Drain is going to shut that down. Lastly, to capitalize on the Skill Drain, Beast King Barbaros is what it was using, coming out of the 1900 and then becoming a 3000 beat stick. It's also a horn target, which is great also. So there you go. That's what it was at the YCS Atlanta when it topped there. So now let's talk about what it lost. Of course, we've all seen the ban list, and we know that TG Striker has gone to 1. Was not a huge part of the deck. It was the only tuner available in the deck, which, you know, the deck doesn't really need, but it's there and you like using it. It going down to 1, the biggest thing I think that it does for the deck is that it loses the TG1 play. You're 1 less target into that, and if I've got to give my opponent a TG, I would much rather give them a Striker than I would a Rhino or a Werewolf, just because those are both horn targets. So a TG1 is not as good. So yeah, Striker goes down to 1. And then Reborn Tengu goes to 2. Of course, another one of the floaters. So you don't lose anything when this card is destroyed. It's also hornable. And with it going to 2, really kind of hurts the deck a little bit. So those were the 2 big things in the deck that it lost. One last thing that it lost that I don't think anybody talks about as far as the deck is concerned is confidence. This deck is players have lost a lot of confidence in this deck, mainly because of losing the Tengu and the Striker. They really feel like because they've lost those 2 cards that the deck is not as good as it once was, or what it should be. So once you start to lose confidence in the deck, what you have to do from that point, you've lost elements of the deck that made it good. So we have to adapt from that. We have to take the losses that we have to deal with and move forward, and what can we do to change our deck to make it still viable. And I feel like this is a lot easier done with this deck than what people realize. So now we've talked about where it was, we've talked about what it's lost, and now let's talk about what it's gained or where it can go. First thing, it gained Photon Saber Tiger, came out in Photon Shockwave, has not seen a lot of play as of yet. However, it is a gadget. You know, you summon it and it will search for another Saber Tiger to add to your hand. If it's the only one on the field, it will lose 800 attack points, making it 1200 unless you have a pair on the field. Then they'll both be 2000 each. However, it is a horn target, which will make it 2000 and can run over something and draw a card. It's also and under Skill Drain, it's 2000 attack and still hornable, which would make it 2800, and it's a normal summon, which is really good. It is also a level 3, which this along with Werewolf gives you access into all the rank 3s. Next, it's gained another Torrential Tribute. And if you remember my last TG stun, TG understanding stun, I talked about how you could use the mass destruction cards in this deck because a lot of your monsters in your Tengus and Strikers and whatnot, they were floaters with your Rhinos and everything. So you could afford to blow up the field, and you could afford to overextend putting your multiple monsters on the field, which you can't do against in most stun decks because you normally depend monster to monster. You can't afford to put a bunch of monsters out there and let them all be destroyed. However, with this, they replace themselves, so you can. And they've given you a second one. So now you have another way of clearing the field and allowing your Warwolf and Rhino to poke in there for 1,200, and $2,000. Next, once you've added the 3 Saber Tigers, you now have roughly 5 light monsters with the Saber Tigers and the 2 Thunder Kings, which most of them are playing. You also have 3 Darks in the Warwolves, and I've actually adapted a Sangan into my deck also. So it's giving me 4 Darks and 5 Lights. So now Blackluster Soldier is an actual viable option in this deck. Yeah, you don't get his effects whenever Skill Drain is on the field. However, he's a 3,000 beater, and can you really go wrong when you can drop a 3,000 beater onto the field basically for free? So you now have options into going into the Chaos elements. I don't know that you can support a Sorcerer or anything else. I really feel like the Blackluster Soldier is the only one that you would be able to support. So but yeah, you now have the capabilities of playing Chaos a little bit in this deck also. I've been playtesting this card in my personal build, and it has been testing well. It has never been dead, especially after the second or third turn. Once I get past the second or third turn, I've usually gotten into my Lights and Darks, and he's there and able to be used. Last, what they've gained is another rank 3 in number 30, Acid Golem of Destruction. He's a 3,000. He does have the downfall of during your standby phase you have to detach or pay $2,000. However, that is his effect. That is not a condition or a maintenance cost. That is part of his effect. So if you're already main decking the 3 skill drains, he is a rank 3 3,000 beater with no downfall. So you now, along with this deck, if you're going to main deck the 3 skill drains, you now have access into BLS, which can be a $3,000 beater for you. You now have Acid Golem, which could be a $3,000 beater for you. You have 1 to 2 Barbaros, which could be 3K beaters. So once I look at where you were, what you've lost, and what we've gained to replace the cards that we've lost, I feel like that TG Stun is still very viable. I feel like that you can still be very creative with the builds from this deck, and I feel like you can still play this deck and still be very successful at your level, at your local level, and even your regional level. I would honestly, guys, not be surprised to see this deck still top the occasional YCS. I don't feel like anybody can just take this deck to a YCS and make top 32, but I feel like if you're smart enough and if you understand the game enough, this deck still has the potential to make the top tables at a YCS. Alright guys, so I appreciate it. Make sure you head over to Facebook and check me out. And like always guys, subscribe, comment down below, show us how much you love us.